Women shouldn't be expected to settle for men we're not even attracted to. Seriously, this is something that makes me so mad. And I'm going to use a story to make my point. I don't have my own column yet, and I'm still taking suggestions for what I should call it. Et voila, ask Hamlet, go to Mel. So many good ideas. And if you haven't noticed, Mose is on strike. Also, this not the cutest sweater ever. Got it secondhand, like everything. I haven't bought new clothes in like 4 years at least. Very proud of that. Except, underwear and stuff like that. So, dear Wendy, how many red flags are too many? I'm going to go over some of the women's responses to this whole thing because I really think women need to start understanding the way we've been conditioned, especially because of all these stupid rom-coms and especially like Judd Apatow movies where like the biggest losers get the most beautiful women. And if we know anything about men, they will project everything on us and then we will police each other. So no, you're not shallow for wanting to be attracted to your partner. Let's just start with that right out of the gate. My boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months, and while he has many good qualities, I'm afraid I've been noticing his bad ones lately, several of which have raised some red flags. And while individually each of these is not a deal breaker, I'm starting to wonder how many red flags are too many. On the minor side, he was fired from his job. That's a big red flag. That's a big red flag. Okay, I know, in this economy and because of capitalism, lots of us get fired for very unfair reasons. But if he's unemployed, babe, you got bigger problems. He's never going back to work. Unemployed men are the worst versions of themselves. Anything they've got going on before they're unemployed, while they're unemployed, you're going to multiply those times 100, okay? A man without a sense of purpose and way too much time on his hands is escapism and avoidance waiting to happen. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt, which I tell y'all not to do, but just for this situation. Maybe he was fired unfairly and he is searching for a job and is about to get another one. But if they can't, one last note on that. We know that men will emotionally regulate for their bosses and other men and maybe the public, and they will not emotionally regulate at home. They can control that temper in front of people that they actually are afraid of losing the job of, but so many husbands are afraid of losing the job of husband. They think they can't get fired from being a partner, and only fired from work. And what men need to start realizing is you could absolutely, the Donald Trump treatment, and I hate that man, you're fired, or whatever. Oh, God. I'm so sorry I brought him up. So if he can't hold down a job, he probably can't hold on his more important job of treating you well when he doesn't get any credit for it or paid for it. Anyway, our food tastes are different. That's not a red flag. It's inconvenient. It's not a red flag unless you're doing all the cooking. And he's going to make you do all the cooking, which in case that's a bigger red flag is not the food taste. It's entitlement. His relationship with his parents is not good. Uh-oh. That is a red flag. Now, the exception is that I just want y'all to see this kitty cat so bad. I just love this kitty cat. How can I get it in this shot? I'm going to do some behind the scenes thing. I am such a MacGyver. I'm going to use a pen and this to hold this up so that you can see the kitty cat while I talk. Anyway, if he has a bad relationship with his parents, that's not his fault. If his parents suck, you still can't see her. It's not his fault if his parents suck. If he doesn't have a good relationship with them because they won't meet him halfway or won't, just whatever. Especially if they're like boomers. We know how boomers are. They will just do literally anything but go to therapy. But if he has a bad relationship with them and he is not getting help for that and hasn't dealt with that, big red flag, because you will pay the price for every issue he has with mommy and daddy. He is overweight. That's not a red flag. We don't want to be fat phobic. And a lot of times when women have an issue with men's weight, it's a projection of our own stuff. And as somebody who used to be like bulimic for a long time, I had to really check myself in terms of how I judged men because my own fat phobia was being projected. The only reason why this would be a red flag is if this man just doesn't take care of himself, like at all. And the only reason why that is a concern of mine is because men who won't take care of themselves at all becomes women's problems. When women don't take care of ourselves, we suffer the consequences. Maybe our kids suffer the consequences, but men usually don't because they're going to abandon us anyway, especially if we get sick. But when men don't take care of themselves at all, and if he's overweight, I don't even know what that means. But if it's because it's self-destructive, not just different body type or whatever, and it is rooted in like maybe an addictive mentality or any of that stuff, it's just something to keep an eye on, because literally everything that men use for escapism and as a vice, women always pay the price for more if we are married to them or live with them or are related to them, because of patriarchy and the way I talk about this all the time. That's my concern. It's not about how he looks. It's more about if he is being self-destructive, the way I was really self-destructive with food. I tortured myself with food. And it was almost like schmoocidal, but with food, you know? Almost ruptured my esophagus. Came very close to that. Anyway, and my best friend does not believe in our relationship. Now that is a red flag. Assuming the best friend is like a good judge of character, right? Now, y'all know, see, I'm going to do this. Now, you know, if you have a best friend who is, you know, like on, like way too far over on this end of the pick-me spectrum, then they're going to give you bad advice. And maybe this guy is really good for you and maybe he treats you really well and they are just like, you know, a frenemy. Or they are just, you know, whatever. They're like, have their own stuff. They're like really not a person you should trust the advice of. But if they're the kind of friend who gives you really good advice, who knows you really well and holds a microphone to your intuition instead of your ego and instead of your trauma responses or instead of their own crap and projection, if that person knows you well and is looking out for what's best for you and they don't believe in this relationship, that is a big red flag. So I don't really know enough information, but that's how I would gauge it. Some of my friends wanted me to stay with like breadcrumb guy, kept making excuses for him. And then I realized I really need to like not listen to them because, well, first of all, their own dating history is not what I want. And second of all, we are plotting and scheming together. And I'm, you know, like, hey, can you take a picture of us together and pretend like it's your idea? That kind of stuff. That is a sign this is not good. And this person is conspiring with you to try to force a man who doesn't like you to like you. So that's a difference. I also want to go back to something I just thought of. When I was dating in LA, there was a guy that I really connected with. He was really sweet. We talked back and forth for like over a week. He wrote me poetry. Like it was a little much, but it was like, well, what's this? Because I'm used to like breadcrumbing dudes or men who hate me. Or I was at the time. And he sent me photos and everything. And I was like, cool. And he was like on the skinny side in photos, which I don't mind at all. There's a part of me that always wanted like skinnier dudes because my ex had pinned me down and I didn't want to feel like a man could overpower me. Now I understand that even skinny men are like more powerful than me usually. I don't know how, but they are. They're just men, I guess. But you know, I find like I'm usually like bigger than a lot of the guys I'm with. In terms of like they're like usually leaner than me or whatever in my pack. Not so much now. Anthony's like has muscles and stuff. It's new for me. But I remember when I met up with him on the first date, he was like scary skinny. It wasn't just like, oh, you know, he's lean or skinny. Like he looked malnourished. And after that date, he called me on it. He was like, I feel like when you met me, something changed because you seemed really excited when we talked on the phone and everything. And then on the date, you seemed a little reserved. Is this because of how I look? And I was like, it's not because of how you look in terms of being attracted to you and all that stuff. But it looks like you're not taking care of yourself. Like, are you okay? And then he admitted that his sister had unalived herself, that he was super depressed, that he hadn't eaten, he was basically starving himself, and that he really needed help. And so I was like, yeah, it seems like maybe you shouldn't date right now and maybe you should deal with that. And he did. And like a year later, he wrote me a message and he was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, you're the first person who's ever been that honest with me and forced me to see something about myself that I didn't want to see. And that was really brave of you to be that kind by being so honest with me. And I've been getting help. I'm in therapy, blah, blah, blah. Still working on myself. I'm not dating, but I just want to thank you. And I was like, oh, wow. Because I was like, was I being like weird about that? And then I was like, no, it's because I was really concerned about him. Someone who's not taking care of himself shouldn't be dating. So the only reason why I tell you that whole story is because it wasn't about the weight. It wasn't even about my attraction. I was legitimately like concerned because he was like, you know what I mean? And I had never been that honest with someone before. And like I said, it is not your job to educate men or give them feedback, but he seemed like a really sweet guy. But there was just something off, and that's what it was. I sensed that he wasn't taking care of himself. He was a mess. And like a lot of men, rather than dealing with all that stuff going on, like losing your sister to suicide, he thought maybe it's a good idea to date and seek comfort in a woman rather than learning how to comfort yourself. I swear these men are so, like, when I say king baby, I know like it's mean and stuff, but literally, like, they need to learn how to suck their own thumb, right? They need to learn how to self-soothe in a way that is not escapism and self-harm and addiction, right? Like, or sucking on us, the life out of us, right? I don't want to be a mommy. So don't let this man seek comfort in you because he's avoiding something he doesn't want to face. That will never end well for you. And it's actually not helpful to him either. On a more serious note, we're very different people. See, this is serious. A lot of people just aren't compatible, y'all. He being more sensitive and open and me being more private, independent, and thick-skinned. Okay, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a bad thing because honestly, there's the whole like, you know, you fit together kind of thing. I don't want to marry myself. Like, why would I want that? I am already plenty. I don't need two of me, right? But you also do want to be compatible with the person that you're supposed to be best friends with, that you also fork and share finances with. So this is also not necessarily a red flag because I am thick-skinned and independent. I'm definitely not private. Y'all can know that. Like, oh, I should be more private. But yeah, like Anthony, he is definitely more open, more sensitive in terms of he's much more in touch with his emotions. Like he's definitely like more emotionally, I don't want to say emotionally intelligent, but just he's more comfortable with his emotions than I am. I am very scared of my emotions still. And it's just easier for me to like disassociate like I did through all of my childhood. But not so much anymore. I'm finally comfortable with crying, you know? In my 30s, I finally let myself cry. It's never too late, y'all. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Look at him. He's like, God, can't, not with the recorder. Okay, I'll use a different instrument. Okay, but this right here is a red flag. The relationship started and moved very quickly from the beginning, and he is completely head over heels in love with me. What does that mean? That sounds like it could be love bombing. Or like a lot of men, especially if he's an insecure man, which he may be, especially if he doesn't get along with his parents, there's a very high chance that he might be insecure unless he's worked really hard on himself. So the problem with this is a lot of men will idealize someone and fall head over heels with the one. Y'all know I did a video on the one the other day. They will just like use a woman to escape themselves. And especially if she's out of his league, which she might, if he's very attracted to her and she's not attracted to him, she may be like dating down, for lack of a better word. And, you know, ask women who have tried to date men who are not in their league. A lot of these men treated them worse, not better, worse than the worst fork boy. Because a lot of men, if they're insecure, they will neg you. They will bring you down until you're at their level, until you hate yourself as much as they hate themselves. So it doesn't often, and this is why I haven't experienced it because I've never really dated a man shorter than me because I haven't really dated that many men. But every woman I know who has dated a man who was short, most of those women said that those men treated them worse than anything because they had such an insecurity around their shortness. Not all short men, but a lot of them. Because they've been bullied their whole life or felt inferior to other men. And who's going to pay the price for that? Women, right? Although I do love him, do you though? I'm afraid I don't love him the same way. Do people even know what love is? Like, you may be like find him to be like an amazing friend, but do you love him? Because it really doesn't sound like you do. I'm not convinced he loves you either. Sounds like both of y'all might be doing like limerence or something else. When things are good, they are really good. He's incredibly kind, supportive, loving, sensitive to my needs, and engaging to be around. Unfortunately, sometimes I just don't want to be around him. Sometimes I'm extremely bothered by his weight. Okay, before she said that, I was like, totally relatable, because especially if he's head over heels for her and he's lonely like most men, yeah, like he may be smothering her, especially if she is independent, thick-skinned, as she says, and private, or like me, I need a lot of alone time because I am, exhausted when being around people because I'm so excited. Okay, so his weight and appearance. Okay, so it's not just his weight, his appearance. So are you attracted to this man at all? What are you doing? And I'm afraid that it has made me reluctant to introduce him to friends. Okay, that's a bad sign. If you are ashamed of your partner, we know what men do. When men are ashamed of us, they will not post us on social media. They don't introduce us to their friends. They don't take us out. They're not proud of us. That is a really terrible feeling. And a lot of times it's because these men, either A, they are attracted to us, but they're more concerned about what their bros think, or B, they're not really into us, but they really just love all the things we do for them, because men always win when they have a woman, because of all the things they're going to extract from her because of patriarchy. But if you are afraid to introduce your friends to your partner, it's probably because you're not attracted to them, right? And if you're not, if you're ashamed of how he looks, you're not attracted to him, or have an issue with his weight, why are you dating this man? Be friends or let him go. I am afraid they will judge me or think I'm desperate. See, that's what makes me wonder, why are you dating him? Sounds like you don't want to be dating him. Just be alone. Because if you're with someone you're not attracted to, you don't think you're compatible with, he has a bad relationship with his parents, and all these other things, and you're still dating him, you are desperate. That's what it's really about. They're not going to think you're desperate because you're with him. They're going to think you're desperate because you don't like him. Not because you're with him, but because you don't even like him. And therefore, and whether they think you're desperate or not, you are desperate. Why? Women just need to stop settling for men because we should like them. I can't tell you how many women, including myself, I have dated at least one man that I just was like, well, I should date him. He's nice and all these things, but I wasn't that attracted to him. I tried to make myself be attracted to him because I didn't want to be shallow. But, if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. Men have no problem walking away from a woman that they are not attracted to unless she's doing so much for him. Then they'll stay with her and then cheat on her or wait for someone else, right? But, men have no problem admitting to themselves that, looks are important to them. Attraction is important. I will say this, that I have an attraction, I have over time, I remember there was a guy I was friends with, and then the more I got to know him, the more attracted I became to him, right? And then we dated briefly. So it's not that, you can't change and you can just start being attracted. You can. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. I don't know why you're with this dude, but it sounds like it's because you are desperate. Or my guess is that desperation is rooted in codependency. Doesn't want to hurt his feelings, is only thinking about what's best for him, which isn't best for him because you don't even like him, over what you truly need. Just because he likes you and is crazy about you doesn't mean that you owe him that reciprocal feeling. You can't force it. You can't force it, right? Let him go. I think if he was better looking, I'd be happier in a relationship. Okay, up until that point, I was really kind of batting for you. But even still, let's think about AD in Love is Blind. If you don't know who I'm talking about, that's okay. She was used to the athletes and the players and, really good looking guy. And then she actually went into that experiment wanting it to base it truly on an emotional connection. And then she ended up with that psycho Matthew and then called him on his stuff and he went bye-bye. And then she ended up with Clay, even though she had a connection with him, but she sensed that he was all about her look. And she was right and got humiliated. But she kept justifying his terrible behavior because he was good looking. She tried to think they were compatible because he was good looking. That man never liked her. And so I promise you, if this guy was better looking, you still don't like him. And you probably won't treat him well. And if he's insecure, he's going to treat you bad. Like, this is a recipe for disaster. I've also been struggling with accepting how I actually feel in a relationship and how I think I'm supposed to feel. There we go. Yeah. See, this is what so many women are like. This is why we really struggled in relationships. Is this whole I should like him. I should feel this way. I should be grateful that I'm with a nice guy. I should. Babe, if you don't like him, just we really we do this so much, y'all. Either we're codependent with that person, or we're like codependent to society. Well, I should. Society thinks, decentering men isn't just decentering men, individual men. It is decentering like that, the conditioning of patriarchy, the male gaze, how we look at ourselves, how we don't even ask ourselves what do I feel? It's what should I feel? That needs to go, because that is like about them. It's not just decentering men. It is decentering your family, what they think, what society thinks, what of being afraid of being called a cat lady. I'm not the type of girl who enjoys copious amounts of PDA and need to be in contact every day. I miss him when we are apart, but not an excessive amount. There's nothing wrong with that, babe. That sounds pretty healthy to me. This is a thing, like, God, we just, that whole saying we should on ourselves. It's okay. You need your space. You need privacy. You're not like, I don't know, sounds fine. But by the same token, I didn't get homesick at camp or when I went away to college. Yeah, neither did I. I don't know. Like, y'all, I think we are so worried about what's wrong with us. Doesn't mean that we don't self-reflect. Doesn't mean that we don't deal with our childhood stuff. Doesn't mean we don't constantly question ourselves. But we do this way too much. What's wrong with me? She doesn't like this one dude, and she's doing all this, spiraling into maybe it's because I didn't know. It was easy for me to go away to college. That sounds like a good thing. Seriously, I don't ever remember being homesick in college. Like, I'm not saying that that's a healthy thing either, but I've been a very independent person for a long time. I need a lot of alone time. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Now I'm starting to wonder. No, I'm just saying, this is what we do, y'all. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And it's all because she's trying to force herself to like a guy she doesn't like. Just break up with him. Do you see how she's spiraling? She's convinced there's something wrong with her because maybe this is fat phobia again. But it sounds to me like they're just not compatible and she's not that attracted to him. And it's that simple. But look at all the stuff she's doing trying to find what's wrong with her. This is what we do. So I'm having a difficult time deciding if this is my personality or a sign that we should not be together. I recently told a friend, without thinking, I would be okay with being married at this age, but I haven't found the right guy. Is that another red flag? Yes! Yes! Do you know, this makes me think of so many times in Schmegs in the City. Miranda flat out said, Steve's not the guy. At one point in time, she literally forgot that she was dating him because that's how much fun she was not having in that relationship. And then Carrie was like, you have a boyfriend. And she was like, oh yeah. Like, stop gaslighting yourself. We overthink. It's as simple. You are allowed to not be crazy about the person crazy about you. You're allowed to not feel attracted to someone that you're not attracted to. You know what men don't do? As much as men do things really terribly, I admire the way they don't. They should probably question themselves more. There's no doubt about it. But if they're not attracted to someone, they're not attracted to them. They don't do all this. What's wrong with me? Is it because when I was at camp and Girl Scouts as a kid that I didn't write a letter home every day? No! God! We do too much. We do too much. Look at all this. Imagine how she could have written like an article that got published. Beautiful story. She could have painted something. She could have done so many things with that time. She could have done so many things with that time. But instead, she's dating a guy she doesn't want to be with and spiraling. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? You don't like him. That's it. That's it. That's it. Indecisive. You're not indecisive. You know. So I'm not going to go through Wendy's advice. It somewhat sticks with mine, although she is kind of shame her a little bit for not liking a guy, but it's going to take too long to go through. It's these comments that I don't like. Look what Wes has to say. Wes Darby. First, yes, you're absolutely shallow. Mind you, men think like this all the time. Men never, ever, ever think that they're shallow for wanting to be attracted to the person they're having schmegs with. Second, he sounds like a good guy. Maybe, but Wes isn't going to see the red flag. Wes hasn't dated an insecure man before who has issues with mommy or daddy issues. Wes hasn't been love bombed probably. Now, this guy may not be love bombing. This guy may not be insecure, but it is a big red flag to me if a guy, for me, it's about consistency. Right? Consistency, but not like too intense, head over heels. Well, I want to be with you all the time. I don't want that, because that means that this man is probably desperate and is also projecting something onto me and is trying to make me perfect. And as soon as he realizes I'm not perfect, then he's going to start treating me like crap. Or is like, yay, I got the girl, and now I got to neg her down to my level, like I said before. Let this man go so he can find happiness with someone. Then you figure yourself out and maybe start dating guys you're more compatible with, or realize you just need hookups and would otherwise be okay alone. Wes, you're the one who's going to be alone. I like this person's. I don't understand people who date people they're not wholly attracted to, whether it's physical or character, personality-wise. If this becomes one among many of your doubts, then ultimately it's best to not continue the relationship. Exactly! Why even pursue a relationship in the first place if there's no or very little low attraction? Exactly! This person is, it's not just your friend. They should be your friend, your best friend. But if you're not dating, why are you dating if there's no physical attraction? That's just your friend. Women are so conditioned to date down and be in a real life Judd Apatow movie that we will convince ourselves that we should fork dudes we're not even attracted. Do you know how many men I have had schmegs with that I was like, ugh. Right? And it's not because I even wanted it. It's because I felt like I had to. You know, when I was working as a PA on set and I heard all these guys talking about forking women, they were forking those women not because they felt like they had to. They were forking women they weren't attracted to because they needed schmegs. And they were literally like, I wish I could put a bag over her head. I promise you, most women, when they're hooking up with men that they're not attracted to, it's usually not because they want schmegs or even need schmegs. No one needs it, by the way. But it's usually out of guilt, a sense of obligation, gaslighting ourselves, feeling like we should, or just do it, get it over with, all those things. When men do this, it's because they don't even see us as humans and they want what they want when they want it and they don't even care, right? Imagine if the tables were turned. If the guy had these doubts about the original poster, pretty sure it wouldn't leave her with a good feeling. Break it off now instead of dragging this out and wasting each other's time. Exactly. This woman, because of all of her stuff and her gaslighting herself and her, she's not only harming herself and spiraling, wasting so much of her own time trying to force something it shouldn't be, and then when she's not with him, worrying, why don't I like him? She's wasting his time. Everyone loses in this scenario. Cut him off. You're doing far more damage by trying to make yourself like someone you don't like than to just admit you're not attracted. And then this person gives her more grace. I understand what it's like to be this woman. Sometimes it takes time to understand how you really feel. I'm not sure why people are putting down. It's only been 6 months, not 6 years. That is a good point. 6 months is not that long. And also, if he is actually love bombing and he's very insecure, it's going to take more than 6 months for that mask to drop, and then she's with a nightmare. Men can play this for a while. At a certain point, they do the switch up, but they can't. They're going to start showing some cracks. But she's already seeing this stuff come up in 6 months. Get out. Sometimes you do perceive people because you see their good quality and don't want to be shallow. And then there's more. I'm not going to go into. The point is, you're allowed for schmegul attraction to be important. Don't let them tell you otherwise.